Some ASMR. What's up, man?
What's up?
Do you need any cream or sugar or anything?
No.
Yeah. Neither do I, except for the cream part. We're not doing any sugar this month.
You and David? Bridget?
Me and Bridget.
Him and Bridget.
Me and Bridget. And we're supposed to be working out 4 times a month. 4 times a week.
A month.
So I have to do double duty for the next couple days here. So I'm that far behind, but
You gotta come to top tier.
I want to. I've actually had 3 different times that I was supposed to be scheduled to come out there because they want to do the whole like, can you move okay? Are you a broken person? You know, whatever. And I've just like forgotten to do it every single time. Yeah, mess with that however you want. Tilt it up if you want.
Hello. Yeah, we
Back
we
in the
were
studio.
talking about that yesterday, actually.
About me being broken or what?
About you not coming to the initial meetings.
Oh, really? Good. Somebody's got it. Give me a hard time for it. You know Josh out there? At Top Tier? Isn't that one of the trainers?
Chris?
Well, I know there's Chris.
Chris, Ben, Stefan. There's no Josh.
There's no Josh?
Not
you sure?
anymore, at least.
Have you been there for what, a month?
No, like 8 months.
8 months? At
Probably.
Top Tier?
Probably. Yeah, oh no.
Take off your shirt and prove it.
Almost a year, actually.
Really? Come on.
Actually, yeah, 8 months.
Are you going to compete?
I'm doing the open right now.
Really?
Yeah.
What
They're-
workouts?
So they're announcing the second one
Uh-huh.
in an hour. The first one was so I gotta go.
In an hour, you'll be sweating here.
The first one was as many rounds as possible in 15 minutes. 3 wall walks. Do you know what that is?
No. Oh, where you push up the wall?
Yeah. So
Yep.
you're like feet to the wall,
Yeah, I
lay
do
flat.
know what that is.
You have to like put your hands. You have to walk your
Awful.
hands. And then, so 3 of those, 12 dumbbell snatches, 50 pounds,
50?
15 box jump overs.
Okay. In 15 minutes, AMRAP.
Yeah. So
Brutal.
The like top people were getting like 13 rounds.
What'd you hit?
I got 7 plus 1 wall walk. Which like
You're talking about top nationally or top at Top Tier?
no, top globally.
Yeah.
Like the very most highly.
You're doing prescribed. This isn't scaled?
Yes,
There is no
correct,
prescribed
correct.
for the open, I guess. I mean, there is no scaled.
You can do scaled, but if you do 1 rep at RX, you're ahead of all the scale.
As it should be. The true
Um,
CrossFit way.
So yeah, they were like, you should just do RX because the 50-pound was kind of heavy for me. But
Yeah. Is everybody getting together and doing it together?
everybody does on Friday.
Okay.
So
And they record the whole gym at the same time?
No, it depends if you're signed up.
Oh.
Like me, I know you have to be top 10% to move on. I know I'm not going to be top 10% in the US. You have to be top. So there's 70,000 males signed up in the US.
Oof.
So you have to be top 7,000.
Yeah, you have to be, yeah.
So I think this first
And every time
workout-
it's the next 10%, so then next time it's down to 700?
Top 10% for 4 workouts.
Okay.
So we do all 4 and then the top 10%. So technically I could move up. But right now I'm like, I think like 30,000 out of 70,000 maybe.
I heard a doctor at one point, when I was moderately heavy into CrossFit, I did 2 competitions.
47,000
47,000 this year?
that's my ranking.
Oh, okay. You'll get there. Top 7,000 out of 70. That is wild.
So I did 7 rounds. You had to get, I think 9 rounds ended up being top 10% because 2 guys from our gym got like 9.5 rounds and they're
Nice.
top 10%
Nice.
in the US.
How's your body been feeling with it? Yeah?
Good.
Just taking that amount of weight. You had bruised collarbones. Ooh.
Yeah.
To be wrecked.
My back was sore after the snatches
yeah.
because with the box jumps for the snatches, I wasn't using my legs. I was just hinging and just.
Well, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Because you try to just hinge that microphone right over the...
So my back sore for 2 days, and then Monday I worked out again and felt a little sore, but not bad. And then Tuesday we did this workout and with kettlebell swings, and that always hurts your back. 'Cause
Always.
You have it overhead, and you kind of just like, woo.
Yeah.
So
isn't that crazy that you could be going? I mean, you were basically just going as fast as you could. Like, it doesn't matter what the technique was at that point. It was like, I'm not going to lift with good technique. I'm just going to go as fast as I can. You're still people like doubling over on what you were doing.
Yeah. I mean, basically
Monsters.
to get 10 rounds, you had to do 1 round every 3 seconds or 1 rep every 3 seconds. I rested, like if you rest if you rested like 20 seconds a round for 7 rounds, that's almost 2 minutes. So that, like it was hard for me because like there was no part that I could catch my breath.
No.
Like
that's like the point of over box jumps.
The whole thing, they were like, you have to,
Coming
Is that
back.
some Creed
Came back.
or Nickel Creek
I don't know. Can you hear that, Kylan?
yeah.
or Nickelback? Yeah, we pick up the radio station
Oh,
here sometimes.
nice.
It's like just like our background. I don't know if we've heard it in the. It's kind of like the running gag at this point. I'll be sad if we ever fix it and we don't get some Nickelback in the background. But yeah, there's nowhere to catch your breath with any of that.
Yeah.
I was just telling David we went and played Ultimate Frisbee Tuesday night. You should come out sometime for that. We probably had 40 people out there, and that night, the front of my leg, like whatever that is, your shin muscle, like woke up and like my foot was like 90 degrees, like seized up. So I was like, oh, and I like pulled it back down, and then my calf seized up, and I was like, oh. And so then I just got up and walked around with Ruby for like 45 minutes. It's like my body is not used to the working out anymore.
Dang.
Even just like running around playing Frisbee. But yeah, CrossFit's another level. Have you heard anything about like Rich Froning and folks like that who, I mean, original like OG Seth Koa was doing it back in the day where their suggestion was to just use Converses. Like, what shoes should you use for CrossFit? Like, well, you don't want an elevated heel, right? And you want something that's flat that you also can run in. So they're like, you should just use Chucks. Converse Chucks is like what they were suggesting.
Really?
That's like how far back he started. But there's this idea that it's obviously not sustainable in some way to be lifting like an Olympian more or less for 15, 20 years or however long you're going to be doing it. But you definitely feel good when you're doing it. It puts you in shape like nothing else I've ever done.
Yeah. It's interesting to me, like for me, wanting to compete, just like a general goal, not like, obviously I could put all my eggs in that basket.
Not with
But
that attitude.
once you get to that level, just maintaining yourself to stay at that level
Yeah.
is so easy. Like
Oh, it's easy.
yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Like the dude who got second this last year, he's like qualified for the CrossFit Games like 6 or 7 times. And he says like he doesn't lift for like maybe 1 or 2 days a week. Like he'll do cardio, but like to maintain his muscle mass to still compete with the top 40 men in the world, he just has to lift like 1 or 2
he's
times
just
a
eating
week.
right. He's just eating right and keeping his weight down.
I guess.
You've about got the right build for a CrossFitter. Has I told you that?
But yeah, that's what got me being like, oh, I should try and compete then because
I got the body for it.
well, I mean, basketball, football.
Yeah, you're annoyingly good at basketball too. I'll
Yeah,
give you that.
but to realistically compete, I was too short.
Right.
So, always knowing like I shouldn't have this goal of like trying to play in college or anything. Same with football. But then being like, oh, you're the perfect size for CrossFit. I'm like, oh, well, I should just try. And it's more or less a reason to go in there every day.
Yeah.
Like realistically, if I actually wanted to compete, I would eat differently. I wouldn't drink any alcohol ever. I would go to bed at 9 o'clock every night.
You're not going to bed at 9 o'clock every night?
No.
I thought you're getting up at like 4 a.m.
I should
that's
be.
Rebecca.
Should be. Yeah, I'm trying to get.
So
up to
how hard
5.
are you going to push for it?
Here's my.
Are you just like 1 year, just like all in?
This
hardcore?
This is my thought process. The guy I was talking about who got second this last year, he's 31, and I'm
How old are
20,
you?
25.
Okay.
So I'm like 6 years, and he's like still like. I wouldn't say that he's not like new, but he's in his prime still.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like in 6 years I could be in my prime.
Mm.
So for the next 5 years, if I kind of just generally aim at this as my goal, knowing right now, even if I sold out the next year, quit my job, like
Let's go.
in a year from now,
Don't
I would
stop
still
Sayso.
be far away.
Yeah.
But if over time I can get closer and get to a point where it's like, if you did sell yourself out for a year, you could potentially compete at this level, then I would consider it. You know, it's like, I know right now I can't do 2-a-days or commit all this stuff because there's other more important things going on. But if I get close enough to where it's like, oh, I could actually do it, then maybe.
Yeah. You're not going to know that, I think, until after at least 1 year of going for it. Can we hold some sort of, that's better. No, that's worse. Can you hold the headphone jack? Was that what worked last time, or ground it out?
I've been holding them.
Yeah, that's a little bit better. Maybe. Can you
No.
hear
hear that in your headphone? Okay.
It doesn't bother me.
It doesn't bother him. Turn it up.
Yeah.
In 95.1, turn that up. Yeah, you're not. I kind of had the same thought around when I was 25, when I was like really considering it. I'm not nowhere near the right body frame. 6'2", 80% legs. Like it's a long way to squat, long way to pull anything overhead, long arms, long legs.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
it was like that. Like what my buddy Seth told me was basically you have to have at least 1 year to use as the of the base of what could it be from here on out. So you think that's going to be next year? You're flirting with the idea.
Maybe. I mean,
considering.
the biggest thing that I would need to add is just strength. Like,
Yeah.
I need to add 100 pounds at least.
Eating
to my,
food.
to my
100
squat-
pounds?
To my squat. Like,
Oh, dude,
No, no,
100
no.
pounds to you. I'm back.
I'm like 170 right now. I'm trying to get up to like 190.
Okay.
But like, I mean, the cardio I think will just come with time. But the other thing that, you can, if you're really strong, you could do all the RX weights.
Mm-hmm.
If you're really fast, you could finish the workout slowly versus not being able to get a single rep, even if you're like, but I'm fast. It's like,
Right.
if you can't clean and jerk whatever,
Right.
to 280, doesn't matter how fast you are at clean and jerking 150.
Yeah.
All of my lifts, I gotta get a lot stronger.
Yeah.
So there's so many things. I mean, double unders. I'm like just proficient with like toes to bar and pull ups. Like I've been doing them for a while, but like now it's like at the point where like no matter what the workout is, I know I can do
Yeah.
it.
Are you doing muscle ups?
I've done one muscle up.
Ring
maybe
or bar?
two. Bar
Oh, really?
with Seth Crowell.
Rings are usually easier.
Really? I've
Yeah.
never tried on a ring.
Rings are the only place I could. I never got on a bar. I could get it to where I was doing it, where I was doing muscle ups, like a maximum of 10
Dang.
on the rings. Yeah,
That's cool.
but I never got a bar. Maybe once or twice. But you're just able to, if you've got the flexibility for the ring, you can kind of. It's such a lower purchase level to actually be able to mount it. But yeah, it does force you to focus on everything. I remember a couple of years ago, they started I think it was the last year they did the CrossFit Games, which they're doing again now, right?
Yeah, they did it. They've done it the last.
Last 2 years or something like that?
Yeah, in COVID, they just brought 5 of each gender to the farm. Like Dave Castro's ranch.
How many genders are there now? Okay,
So there was 100 people
there's
there.
100 people there, right? Okay. So
This is off record.
This is that's the founder guy's farm.
No.
It's not, no.
So the founder of CrossFit, Greg Glassman,
Okay.
he got canceled,
Right.
for being a bad person.
That was a stupid comment, to be honest, though.
Yeah, and then there was like all this like, basically he was kind of harassing the women that worked at CrossFit. So CrossFit came under a lot of fire. He said something about something racial, and then all this other stuff came out. So he sold the company to a guy named Eric Rosa,
Okay.
who still owns it. Eric Rosa, just successful businessman. I think already owned a CrossFit gym, but is in like the tech world. And he's just like, I have a lot of money and I'm a good person. So,
Dang.
or at least on the surface, who knows?
Yeah, that's what we thought
Really?
about Greg.
Yeah. But Dave Castro was kind of like the evil mastermind behind the CrossFit Games and turning it into a sport. Greg Glassman, the original owner, didn't like the CrossFit Games. He was local gym or focused, and I think the reason being is that was like the driver for the income.
Mm-hmm.
But
Okay.
he also started CrossFit for people to be just like functionally fit.
Right.
however the CrossFit Games took off, I don't know. But so there was this point where Greg Glassman, before he lost the company, he went in and fired like all the games staff.
Yep.
He's like, we're not doing the games anymore. You're all fired.
It was a pure franchise model at that point.
Yeah. And then I don't know the specific timeline, but around then is when he sold the company. Eric Rosa offered everyone their job back.
Wow.
Because he was like, yeah, because it was literally that abrupt. Like, they just showed up and he's like, we're not doing the games anymore. You're fired.
Yeah, I remember.
Dang.
I remember it being a huge thing when that happened. So it was when Eric came in that he started bringing the games back.
So he brought, he offered everyone their job back. He brought the games back. Dave Castro is kind of the face of CrossFit because he is the one that is like he programs the games. So he's the one that programs all the workouts for the games. And honestly, over the last couple of years, it seemed to become more and more popular, at least the games, with streaming and stuff. Something that's crazy that happened is that like a month ago, Dave Castro got fired.
By Eric.
Whoa.
So apparently,
What did he say?
So apparently, after the last CrossFit Games, Eric Rosa got depressed or something. And so he literally said, I'm depressed, and then isolated himself from everyone for months and months and months. Dave Castro, the way that he works, he's kind of like on his ranch in his evil lair. He's like this is how they describe him, though. He's like the villain. He
Writing
truly,
these sadistic workouts, yeah.
And, when you see more about it, he does care about the athletes, and he's not just like, F you, But he is in there trying to program the best, most showful games.
Yeah.
And he said, I hadn't heard from Eric in 3 months, and he calls me and says, we have a press release ready to go for tomorrow saying that we've mutually agreed to part ways, and I'd like you to sign off on it.
What?
And he was like, he's like, this is not mutual.
Oh my gosh.
And so then it was basically just like, because he was like, no, I don't want to leave. The next day it came out, it's like, Dave Castro was fired.
Whoa.
Oh, that was a month before the Open. So he's like, I literally just programmed the Open. Are you guys going to use my workouts?
When was this? 2 years ago?
No, this was like a month ago.
A month ago.
Wow.
So like last year.
So what are people saying? What's the reason that he got fired?
So there's a couple. The general reason is that Eric Rosa, as he's trying to grow it, he wants it to be. Dave Castro is a very abrasive personality, swear words, posting pictures of animals that he's hunted on his Instagram, things like that. Potentially not 100% family friendly for the face of your sport.
Is CrossFit supposed to be family friendly?
They want it.
I mean, they used to be sponsored by. You hear the old stories about like Rabdo the clown?
No.
No, you haven't heard about that. You know what?
No.
What's the full thing? Well, you should look that up. Rabdo is this.
Is it family friendly?
It is
my
not.
computer?
Yeah, don't show this. So Rabdo is. This was like back in the old like
Abby's
CrossFit
gonna,
box
hate
days.
this.
What am I looking up?
Rabdo the clown.
Okay.
CrossFit. It'll come up. This is back in like old CrossFit box days where there is a condition that when you work your muscles so hard that they start leaching, the muscles start like disintegrating into your bloodstream, and you basically start having blood come out your butt, and just like intestines come out. I mean, look at that.
Ew.
So this used to be the Rabdo the clown. This little thing, like this was something that like people would have. Look at this girl throwing up the peace sign in the hospital right there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so like people would post pictures of their experiences with Rabdo because it's basically not having worked out enough, then going in and pushing your. Actually, it usually happens with people that are really athletic, and so they would go in and they knew what their body should be able to do, so they could push through the pain. Their muscles would start disintegrating into their bloodstream, intestines, and blood come out. But yeah, read this. What is this? Rhabdomyolysis, or Rabdo, is a rare condition that can occur from exercising. Muscles become so overworked, their cell contents are released into the bloodstream, causing injury to the kidneys.
Oh my gosh.
So they used to have Rabdo the Clown, like not all boxes, but they would have like him stenciled on the wall. Yeah, Pukey the Clown. They called him. Pukey the Clown isn't funny. I would imagine that's the case. Anyway, so that's what CrossFit used to be. That was like 12 years ago when it was really starting to pick up steam. That was part of what people, their problem with it was that it was, that
intense.
I guess, yeah. But it was almost like it was a level of being fit that the question was like, what cost?
Yeah.
I think basically. So now they're firing this guy for hunting and swear words.
Yes. So
that is called under new management.
The general consensus is Eric wanted the games to be kind of headed up by a team and a team player, whereas Dave Castro was kind of like, I'm going to do it my way.
Yeah.
And, so that was one. The other thing was the Instagram posts, and then apparently like the day before he got fired, he had posted a picture with Greg Glassman.
Oh boy.
Like at lunch, and was said something like,
Yeah. That's something. If you're the boss who comes in and buys a new company, then you find one of your tops is still meeting with the old boss. That might be the X.
So I was listening to a podcast, and it was like, was
What
it that
podcast?
Instagram post, talking elite fitness or something? But they were talking about it was two guys that used to work at CrossFit and now work in the media very hand in hand with CrossFit, and they're like, why did he get fired? Was it the Instagram post? Was it? And I guess the Instagram post before that one, the initial page was him with an animal that he had successfully hunted, and then the next few slides were pictures of screenshots from his DMs where people were like, "You're disgusting," like, "Kill yourself," like, and he was just
Egging on.
Yeah, he wasn't necessarily responding to them. He was just like showing like, these are the types of things that people are sending me for just being myself. So it was that, and then the next day was the picture with Greg Glassman, and then the day after that, he was fired.
Man, social media, you got to be, so much of it is just optics. You can be, as we have seen, I think a lot recently, you can be kind of like the worst person in the world, good social media presence, no problem. You're like a good person. You have a couple moderately and who knows? I don't know this guy, Eric or whatever like that. All I'm saying is that social media is this optics game. It's like, well, the optics aren't matching what we want. And since as soon as you put it online, it's just like blows my mind that people are still putting things online that it's like, you got to know that someone's going to be grabbing this. Like this isn't going away as soon as you put it up there. They'll go find that wherever. But man, well, thanks for bringing the coffee.
Yeah.
It's good.
Good. I agree. I needed it.
Something that has always kind of fascinated me about Winston-Salem in the last couple years, because especially after growing up here, is it seems like there can always be a new coffee shop in this town. I don't know what that is like. Like when Camino came in, and that really revolutionized like a lot of Winston-Salem, like finally like somewhere like to go congregate, like good food, good coffee, like you're there. And then, for a while, like Twin City Hive like came in, and great meeting space, like somewhere to be. Then of course, like in the last couple of years, like both, Camino expanding down into Brookstown, then Lavender and Honey coming in, Sayso coming in, and it's like, oh, y'all are packed. You're still packed. Like Camino's still got their like amazing ice cap. Lavender and Honey, obviously, you're going in there for most delicious cinnamon rolls on the face of the earth. And then like y'all, there is something, what I love about what you're doing with Sayso is, besides the fact that it's just so good, it's just such good coffee, is it's not, you go in some coffee shops and it is like, it's incredibly pretentious with a low quality product. Sayso is the exact opposite. There's no pretense of like walking into like when the public house there. I would not think we're going to get as good of a cup of coffee as y'all are serving up. And I know it was like kind of a long process. I wish you were still in the bottom of this building, because that was nice when you had the little mobile unit.
Yeah.
Be able to walk in there. But how'd you kind of get started on the whole coffee thing? Because I know you, spoiler alert, you won some coffee competition at some point, right?
Not win, but
You didn't win?
Nationally.
You competed nationally and you didn't win.
No, I got like 24th or something.
Okay, gotcha.
Something.
Well, that's better than your CrossFit record.
Yes.
Right now. Yeah, but it's like, it just seems, I don't know. It's kind of like a lateral entry into all this stuff, right? Or am I missing that?
I got interested in coffee from a friend, and then he was helping start a place and basically asked me if I'd want to work with him. So I worked with him for a couple days a week, and that's really where I like kind of got any sort of foundation for making coffee, for working in a coffee shop. And there with some of the other employees, just kind of like dove into figuring out some of the science behind coffee and really just how to make coffee, make espresso and make lattes and steam milk and all that stuff. From there, I started working at a different coffee shop in Greensboro that was maybe serving a little bit not as good coffee, but was a lot busier. And so I was like, I have the skills. I know how to make good coffee, but I think I just need to do it like thousands of times and get fast and efficient. So I started doing that, and that was like kind of a jump of when I went from part-time, just like doing it for fun, to like, let me see what it would be like to do this as my job. So I started working in that shop and was working a lot and just like honing in the skills. And I did that for a while, and then a friend of mine approached me about starting Sayso. Hey, my wife and I want to start the shop. This is our vision. Do you want to help? And I connected with the vision and also saw a gap in the market in Winston-Salem for what they were trying to create. So I was like, absolutely, let's do it. So I started helping him, and one of the first things I told him was like, we got to use black and white because they're close to Winston, North Carolina, and it's just phenomenal. I think it's one of the top 5 roasters in the U.S.
They're in Greensboro?
They're in Raleigh area, yeah. So at that time, while we were getting that off the ground, I switched to another coffee shop in Greensboro that was serving black and white, so I could start to build that relationship. So I worked there for about a year. And during that year, there's something called the barista competition, and me and my roommate, who were both working at the same coffee shop, kind of started asking the questions like, what's the barista competition? How do you get into competing? What's it like? What's the entry barrier? And the reason we were asking is because the two people who own Black and White both won the U.S. barista competition.
Oh, wow.
I think it was one won it in 2016, and then the other one won it in 2017, and then 2018 they started Black and White. So we had dinner with him, and he was basically just like, there's the lowest level competition is called preliminaries, and it's like $50, and you go and you do like a 10-minute presentation. And
what's a presentation?
So for this one, we had 3 judges, and you had to serve each judge a shot of espresso and then a milk beverage.
Okay.
So the way that this one worked was really interesting. We went to one in Richmond, Virginia, and what was interesting about this level was that you don't get to bring your coffee. So we showed up on day 1, and they think they gave us 5 or 6 different coffees to try. So it's like a silent cupping. So all the competitors are in this room, you and like your team and your coaches or whatever, your support are all in there. Everybody has like little clipboards, and you're tasting coffee, but you're not supposed to talk. So like,
why?
Basically, I think it's just mainly to respect everyone's process.
The coffee.
Yeah, respect the process and like
Respect the coffee.
it wasn't so much about like not cheating, but I think it was just like you don't want to influence any other competitor's choice.
Yeah.
So we all tasted them, and for me and my roommate, it was interesting because it was pretty clear like this one is like our favorite one. It's what we would like for what we were looking for. It's clearly the best.
Did you get to see the bags of the beans?
No.
Okay, so it's just
You literally got like coffee 1, coffee 2, coffee 3,
hot,
coffee 4.
like just drip brewed coffee.
So there's a standardized practice for cupping.
Okay.
So they were cupped. We cupped the coffees to that standard, which is like you grind the beans at a certain grind size, you pour hot water onto the grounds, you let it sit for a certain amount of time, you break the crust of the grounds, and then you scoop the grounds off the top. There's still grounds sitting in the bottom, and then you like slurp it.
Is this like is this an enjoyable, like, do people make cup coffee at home like on normal, or is it a very specific way to get the most taste, or what? What's the reason for that?
I wouldn't even say it's the way to get the most taste. It's just a standardized practice to try and taste the coffee without much user influence.
Okay.
So you would never...
It removes all the variables. It's like it's always ground like this. It's always soaked, brewed for this amount of time, and then...
Yeah. There's even like,
Gotcha.
you know, and you can do it as formal, as informal as you want, but there's like proper cupping bowls or cup, like you put it in the right cup, and you actually have 3 in a row. So like if we were to cup 3 coffees, we'd have 3 sets of 3 cups. The reason being is like there could be defects in the beans, and you could, if you happen to brew a cup that had a bean with some sort of defect, it would taste different. So you have 3 basically to ensure what you're tasting is correct. So you have
I want to try that sometime.
It's fun.
It's fun.
It's definitely
so,
like...
but wait, you go like this. I know like Counterculture has like tasting on like Thursday afternoons or Thursdays at 11 or something like that. I feel like in Raleigh.
Probably.
You think they're doing like cupping, or is
They
it?
are, yeah.
Really? You've done that?
Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
So it's
interesting.
Definitely like an informational experience.
Just when I thought like coffee nerdom couldn't get any more crazy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you have a refractometer, Seth?
It makes sense. There has to be some sort of, you have to have a baseline standardization in order for there to be any sort of competition.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. Okay.
Even
keep
like
going.
how if you're just brewing it in a pot, the ratio and the, the water and the grind size and all that, we could brew the same coffee, have 2 different tastes. If we brew it on espresso, it's going to taste different. So yeah, I think the simplest way to put it is that it's just a standardized method for just trying to evaluate the coffee.
Interesting.
So we did that with these 5 coffees, and we knew nothing about them. And for me, it was clear you're typically looking for something that obviously is good, but is complex, is fruity.
So you tasted all the different ones. They did the cupping. You had the 5 different types of beans at this preliminary.
Yep. And then you had to submit which coffee you wanted in like 1, 2, 3 order.
Okay.
Because if everyone picked coffee 3, they didn't have enough. So you would have got like your second choice.
And you're thinking of how can I use these taste profiles for what I want to make? No, well, obviously the espresso is going to, the espresso is going to be the espresso, but if you're making one like milk drink as well, then you're adding other stuff in there.
Yeah. So I got the coffee that I picked, and then I think they told us like, oh, it's the Ethiopian natural coffee. So like that's all we got to know. We didn't get to know who roasted it, any other detail. They're like, it's Ethiopian natural. Like here's a blank bag of that coffee that you get to use. So the next day, I think we got a 30 or 45 minute practice session. So on the equipment that you're going to use with your coaches, you basically get to dial in the coffee to your recipe, taste it, and then the competition slot, how it starts is basically you have 10 minutes. You have to serve every judge 1 ounce of espresso and 1 milk beverage, which has to at least be 1 ounce of espresso and I think 1 ounce of milk. But you could do like as much or as little milk as you wanted.
Hot
to.
or cold?
I think hot.
Okay.
So we did that, and then they have like basically like a rubric, and it's like there's technical judges and there's sensory judges. So there's also a judge behind the bar watching everything you do, making sure that you're clean, making sure that you do these proper techniques, like flush the group head. So you take the portafilter out, you rinse the group head with water, you dry the portafilter before you grind into it. All those are points. Like he flushed the group head, that's a point. You started with a dry and clean portafilter, that's another point that you're getting from your technical judge. If you don't flush it, you're not getting that point.
Yeah.
Using each towel only for one specific purpose, that's points. Like 1 towel for wiping the steam on, 1 towel for wiping the portafilter, 1 towel for wiping the table. if you use one towel for 2 different things, you're getting counted off.
Okay.
I touched my hair too much because I was like, it was like a nervous.
You had long hair at the time though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I got points off for like touching my face. I also got points off for like touching the rim of the cup that I was giving the judge.
Interesting.
So everything from like technical to health to customer service. And so we're speaking, it's a one way, like they're just listening. I'm like, today I'm going to prepare for you this coffee. It's a blah, 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 blah. We're going to start off. I'm going to serve you espresso. I make the espresso. I serve it to them. And I'm like, before you drink, just wait for my drinking instructions. And then I talk to them. This is what you're going to taste when you taste the coffee. You're going to taste this, this, this. It's going to have this type of body, this type of finish. And then I'll tell them, like, please stir it 10 times counterclockwise and then drink. The whole point
were these your actual instructions?
Something to that. I think I just said maybe 7 times or something. Basically, you're trying to cool it down.
Right, exactly.
So the way that the rules are written, if you give the cup to them and don't say anything, they just start drinking it.
Which is not the optimal way to enjoy espresso.
Correct. It's because it has to cool down enough. Like, you don't need a room temperature, but if they're drinking it straight out, like fresh, it's going to be too hot to really taste anything. So you're giving it to them and you're like, please wait for my instructions. And then you talk to them, basically making time go by and letting it cool. And you have to tell them what they're going to taste, because that's basically in all these competitions, like 60% of your points is coming from if they're tasting what you're telling them they're going to taste. Something that's interesting is you could say you're going to taste chocolate. Sure, maybe they're tasting chocolate, but then there was people saying you're going to taste 73% dark chocolate. And it's like, I asked my coach, I'm like, what, how do you know which one to say? They're like, you're supposed to be as specific as you can. If you're very specific and you nail it, you're going to get a higher amount of points. Like, you could say chocolate and it's graded on a scale of 0 to 6. And they're like, yeah, it's chocolate, but like, I'm tasting dark chocolate 73%. So they're going to give you 2 out of 6. But if you say 73%, you'd get 6 out of 6.
A California orange picked 14 days ago, left on the counter for 33 minutes.
Yeah.
Enjoy. This guy won.
So you serve them that, and then, you tell them how to drink it, you tell them what you're going to taste, and then I make the milk beverage, and the milk is the same thing. You tell them what they're going to taste. They're also grading you on not the skill of your latte art, but if it's proportional in the cup. If the contrast is there from the brown of the coffee to the white of the milk. I think those are the 2 biggest things with the milk. And then the same thing. You're going to tell them what they're going to taste. And then you kind of just close, and you want to kind of try and tell them some sort of story, either about coffee or about the industry. And the whole point of the competition is to select one person to go represent the U.S. at the world competition.
Whoa.
So
which is where?
It's different.
Italy?
It's different every year. So it's not written in the rule book that you have to tell a compelling story, but typically the top competitors are telling a compelling story about coffee or the coffee industry or something that they hope to see happen or change. And that definitely influences the scores. And there are some things like, on the rubric, it says like passion for specialty coffee, 0 to 6. So you're having to convey in your speaking that you have a passion for specialty coffee. You could do that through science, or you could do that through like talking about how we're going to get farmers to be paid better. So
and these 2 fellows from Black and White, they won it.
They won U.S. And then
2
they both,
times, or you said they were number 1 and number 2?
2 guys. One of them won it in 2016. Then he got I think top 7 at Worlds. Then his partner won it in 2017 and got tops. They both, I think, got top 7 at Worlds.
Was he your coach?
Yeah. So one of these guys was my main coach. But like, when we have the 30-minute practice session, they're both there with me, like drinking the coffees, telling me, like, it's funny. They're the ones telling me, say this. Say it tastes like this, Meyer lemon. And then with the milk, they're like, it's strawberry ice cream or whatever. and I'm just velvety mouthfeel, a fast finish. Those are things you have to say the body. You have to say the mouthfeel, which is either like silky or velvety. You have to talk about the finish. Like a fast finish would be like cocoa nibs. You know, like eat
Cocoa
like
nibs? What is
dark
that?
chocolate.
Oh, okay.
And you swallow, you know, it's got that bitter but kind of fast finish versus like a juicy finish of like candy. You swallow it and you still can feel it in your mouth. So you're saying all those things, and you know, these coaches, they're so dialed in, they like know exactly. They're like,
there is a lot of this like industry lingo ways you say it, like wine, and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. So we did that one, and then I think we started heading back on Sunday night. Me and my roommate, they were delayed, so they hadn't announced any of the rankings yet. And this, like, if you got like top 5 or something, you got registered into the next round. But the next round was also open registration, so like it was kind of like a benchmark, but it was more or less for people who had never done it before or needed more practice, because you could get last place and still go sign up for the next one. So we're driving home, and
try putting that on your pad or something like that. Can we get it off the table?
Yeah, real quick. Can I just try resume?
Do what you got to do, boss.
We're back.
We're radio free.
Am I in there? I don't hear myself now. Oh, there we go. So we're driving home.
Okay, so that was the preliminaries, but it didn't really matter because you could. It was open sign up for the next level.
Realistically, but until I got a call and they were like, "Dude, you got first place."
See, I told you got first place. I remember that.
And then my roommate got third.
Talking about their 24.
And we were supposed to get some prize or something, but we were like, we never got it because
Tesla.
We were driving home. Yeah. But so we left that. Obviously, we have what it takes to do this thing because it was our first time ever doing it, and we weren't complete garbage. So
that's a good feeling.
I think it was around September or October, and the next round was January in Nashville. So we signed up. This one you get to bring your coffee. So the coaches are like, oh yeah, you guys, like, they're basically telling us, like, if you kind of do what we tell you to do, you'll make nationals.
Wow.
So it's like, practice your stuff, you know, write out your script, because you have to memorize for, I think it's 12 minutes for, this was called qualifiers, the next round. I think it's 12 minutes. You have to memorize your script.
A 12-minute presentation.
Yeah. Well, you don't have to, but like if you don't memorize it,
you might as well use the entire time, of course.
So you pretty much, and at this one, it was still 2 drinks. I'm sorry, but this time, okay, it's 10 minutes, 2 drinks, but 4 judges. So you're having to make 8 drinks in 10 minutes.
And you want them all to be experiencing at the same time. So it's like 4 shots as quick as you can while you get the instructions, and then you're off making your milk drinks.
Yeah. So how the flow of this one went, and the cool thing about this is that you get to bring your own coffee.
Yeah. And your own machine?
No.
Ayo. Whoa, you didn't tell me you got a microphone headpiece like NSYNC out there.
Yes. Where'd
you find this?
Amish NSYNC.
That is an Amish NSYNC.
That's a funny story about this picture is
Did you just search Kylan Reasoner on Google?
Yeah, he's everywhere.
No kid. What?
Funny thing about
you were downplaying this.
This picture is that
you have been doing CrossFit. Look at that picture.
True.
So I couldn't tie my hair back in a ponytail yet, so I had to wear a hat because it kept getting in my face. And I kept having this nervous habit of like touching my mustache.
Oh no.
So like an hour before I was supposed to be there.
-1 point. -1 point.
Like an hour before I was supposed to be there, I was getting nervous, and so I went and shaved my mustache so that I wouldn't touch it.
Dude, you do look like an Amish boy.
But I didn't. I was afraid I didn't have enough time to do my whole beard, so all of the pictures look
that's so funny.
Really silly.
There you go.
That's funny.
What is Sprudge Live? What is that?
Sprudge is like a media outlet for like coffee culture.
They've got a distribution or newsletter or something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Coffee champs, crush the rush. Coffee masters. Okay.
So we
and
go.
And that was what year? 2017?
This was January of 2020.
Yeah. What?
So
Wow.
before COVID hit.
Dang.
Right before.
Right before.
So.
And you were doing Sayso at this point.
we were working on Sayso, but Rebecca and I weren't owning it.
Okay.
We were just, so I was competing, representing Sayso. The guy who initially started Sayso, Will, he and I rode down to Nashville together. They were supporting me, but still, the Kyle and Lim from Black and White were my coaches. My roommate at the time also was going, so we went down. We were actually using the same coffee at this round. We each had different coffees picked out for nationals, but they were basically so limited and expensive that Kyle and Lim from Black and White were like, you can't use these until you make it to nationals. But they're like, this is the coffee that you can use, and it's good.
It's just so limited because, like, where the beans are sourced from, is just not many of them grow or something?
So it's like the coffee I use is from a place called Macava in Colombia, a farm called Macava, and it's basically like, this is the best lot of Macava, and there's only 25 pounds or 25 kilograms. I don't know, something like of this lot.
Because of the soil?
Like, just like, they could have a 1,000-acre coffee farm or whatever, and this part of the land gets this type of sunlight and this type of blah, 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 and it's better than the same exact strain of coffee grown on the other side of the farm or even right next to it.
Wild.
So basically, we were still using Macava, but they're like, you have to use like this special, really good, like the best lot, you have to make it to nationals. But we were confident in the coffees that we had, and it was basically just like, take it seriously, don't do anything stupid, you'll make it to nationals. So my roommate went first before me, and we're like a couple hours before, we're like going and getting food, and he's like being silly, trying to play it cool. You get this like bar cart 30 minutes before you go. You have to load all of your stuff. So people are bringing cups and napkins and entire table settings for all the judges. You basically get a blank table, and you can leave it as bare as you want, but it's like other people are making it extravagant, so you at least have to like do it. You're also preparing the judges with menus basically to follow along.
What if you just pull it up and you're like, put out a Keurig and you're just like, today's K-cup is from
There were some people that were a little ridiculous. And
like over the top, or like just not taking it seriously?
More just over the top. Like there was someone named Mama Mocha, and she has a coffee shop and roastery in Alabama called Mama Mocha's, and her whole spiel was about dark roast.
Okay.
She was talking about how dark roast is paying her bills, and she wasn't being disrespectful to the competition, but she wasn't trying to win in the same way that some of us else were.
It was more story, less maybe artisan.
Yes. Like, I think I counted one of her shots ran for almost a minute.
Oh, my gosh.
And, yeah, typically if you're over 30 seconds, that is bad. But it was hilarious, and she had some good points.
I want to see Seth compete.
Yeah.
Going in blind.
I'd be Papa Mocha.
Papa Mocha. So you are backstage. You have this little table, basically this size, where over the weekend you can store all your stuff, because you're bringing your milk, you're bringing your coffee, you're bringing all of your utensils. So my roommate, best friend at the time, he's loading up his cart, and I'm kind of like helping him. I'm like, do you have this? He's like, yes. I'm like, do you have that? Like we're going through the checklist. He's ready. Like, he's got everything prepared. And so I leave backstage. So I'm just going to give him some space. He's got a few minutes. One of our other buddies is talking to him. So he comes out. Now we're all like seated down.
Yeah.
We've all sat down.
Sat down.
We sat down. We're ready. He starts his performance, and he's going, and he's like, all right, judges, like, today we're going to start with our milk beverage, so I'm going to go ahead and pull the shots for the milk beverage. And to pause here, how these machines are, these are 3 group head machines, so you could pull 3 double shots at once.
There you go. Yeah.
4 judges. Each judge, like if you come into a coffee shop and ask for espresso, you're getting a double shot.
Yeah.
But for these competitions, you're only serving single shots.
Yeah, because they've got to drink, 40, 60 different Ounces of espresso.
So you would pull 2 double shots and catch it in 4 cups.
Yep.
So in about the same amount of time you can pull one, you can pull all 4 of your first drinks. So he's preparing his milk beverages. So he pulls 2 double shots, 4 single shots for the milk beverages. And then he is still talking, and he goes to get his milk, and he kind of freezes. And I could tell something was wrong, but I didn't know what. So I'm like looking at our coach. I'm looking at the owner of Black and White. And I'm like, what's wrong? And the owner of Black and White's trying to like mouth something to me, but he was a little far away from me, so I couldn't tell. Come to find out, he left his milk in the refrigerator backstage.
Oh.
He was so prepared that he had like measured his milk out. He had it in his carafe, and he was like, let me put it back in the fridge because I've got some time.
We had 10 minutes because could he run back?
So if he would have read the rules.
Oh, gosh.
Technically, if you forget something, you can go back and get it. What we weren't allowed to do was say,
Go get it.
go get it.
Yeah.
We weren't allowed to,
to
tell him. So he obviously is frozen. He's like, I forgot my milk. What do I do? He basically just acts like none of that ever happened. He dumps the shots out, and he goes, all right, judges, now I'm going to start preparing you your espresso.
Oh, my gosh.
So he gives them the espresso, and then at the end, he was just like, judges, I'm sorry, I forgot the milk backstage, And then he's basically just apologizes it and like calls time, and his time's done.
Oh.
And he's devastated because we're like, our expectation was to go to nationals.
Yeah. Oh.
Because they're like,
Were you tied together?
No.
Okay.
But roommates, we were kind of partners, just like working. We would go in after hours and practice together.
So did you dump out your milk in solidarity?
Yes.
This is for you, man.
Poured it on the
I just poured it on the
judges'
judges'
table. Here you go.
This is for Phil. So that was on Saturday, and he was devastated. It was really bad. So Sunday I go, and I'm like, I'm not forgetting anything. So I went, and I set up. So there's 3 stations, and while person on station 1 is competing, you have, I think, 5 or 10 minutes to set up your station on station 3 or whatever. So I'm setting my stuff up with a judge watching me with the timer. They're not judging you on what you're doing, but it's just like you're timed. It's funny. Anyway, so I'm setting up. I'm all set up, and I'm like, you have your coffee like dosed out in these little single doses for the type of grinder that you use. And I'm like, I'm going to pull a shot. We had already dialed it in and practiced that morning, but I was like, I'm going to pull a shot and just sample it, just, make sure it's where I want it to be. So I pulled it, and I did a little sample, which they really tell you not to do because you're nervous. Number one, you don't need more caffeine, but also like if you have a plan and you go up in your practice and you're pulling the shot at this parameter,
Right.
And you're like, this is what it tastes like, and it's not just on you. It's like your coaches, your buddies. You're all like, all right, this is it. This is what we're gonna say. So I went up there and I pulled it. And I'm like, oh, I think that was a little fast. So I changed the grind size just a tiny bit. Didn't taste it. Did my presentation and felt pretty much flawless. I felt like I crushed it, and I did. Like, as far as the technical, I think I missed 4 points out of 150 on technical.
Whoa!
Which is really
Shaving
really
your mustache
good.
Worked.
Yeah, it did. And then, so I'm like, I feel good. I'm like, I definitely think I made it to nationals. And they start calling it out. I think there was.
Yeah, how do you see your score? They print it out?
No, they do it
you have
in
to
the
stand up like a
most dramatic
gymnast?
way.
Oh, man.
So this one wasn't
7.8 from the recipient of China.
Yeah, this one wasn't that bad because they just had everyone in the crowd. And so I think there was 60 competitors and only the top 16 made it through.
60 competitors, 10 minutes apiece. You were there for a long time.
Oh, yeah. It was like competing all day Saturday, competing all day Sunday.
Dang.
So I went on Sunday, and then Sunday evening.
A bunch of caffeine addicts just under one house.
And you can you don't have to stay there. You can leave and stuff. But Sunday evening, they did the announcement ceremony or whatever. So they start at position 16 and call your name all the way down to 1.
Oh.
So as they're getting closer to 1, you're like,
man.
I either did better or worse. Like, I either didn't make it or I did really good. So
Dang.
I think I ended up getting 13th or 14th out of, it was either 16 or 18. I can't remember. It doesn't matter. But anyways, I'm like, all right, awesome. I made it to nationals. And I got my score back. And basically, like I said, the technical side was good. The thing was, my espresso didn't taste exactly like, I lost most of my points on how the espresso tasted.
Did you change it?
Because I changed the grind. And I told my coach, and he was like, dude, don't ever do that. He's like, if you didn't do that, you would have scored way higher. Mm-hmm. Top 6, you get like a first round bye at nationals. And so that was like really the goal. I mean, the main goal is like just qualify. But, you know, the secondary goal is get top 6.
And there's 60 people competing in what, every state in the
60
in the country?
East Coast, West Coast. So 120 go down to 36. So it's actually it's 18. So I got somewhere between 13 and 16. I don't remember exactly. I think it was 13 or 14 because it wasn't like the bottom of the qualifiers, but it wasn't like top 10. Mm-hmm. So 120 down to 36. So I make it, and this goes from January 12th to February, I think 20th or something, was nationals, and it was in Orange County, California, which was awesome. Pacific Milk or Pacific Foods.
Western cows.
Shout out to Pacific Foods. They paid my airfare, my Airbnb.
Wait, this Pacific Foods is like a brand?
Yeah. Okay. So a lot of coffee shops use their milk, but they also make like soup. It's like in Whole Foods and stuff. Okay. And I've never I didn't have to do anything for them. I feel like to this audience, I should profess my love because
do it.
Pacific Foods, basically Black and White, contacted them for me and for a few of the other competitors and basically like, hey, can you help out and sponsor some of these baristas because the flight was like $500, the entry fee was like $500, the Airbnb was like $500, and Pacific Foods was just like, we got it.
Wow.
So basically. Awesome. Not even basically, literally, expenses paid to nationals. So I'm going to nationals with better coffee. My best friend's eliminated, so I'm like, got to do it for him. Shave the beard and the mustache.
There you go.
All your
not
hair.
losing those 4 points.
Yeah, and I'm like, don't freaking mess with the espresso. Just like locked in, do it right. One thing that is interesting is so nationals. 4 judges, you're serving them 3 drinks in 15 minutes, 3 drinks each, so 12 drinks in 15 minutes. So you still have your espresso, you still have your milk beverage, and then you have your specialty beverage. So the easiest way to describe it is some sort of like coffee cocktail. You're using very small amounts of things to try and transform the coffee.
Huh.
I used a lactic acid solution.
What? You're trying to poison these people?
It was like a tenth of a gram of lactic acid with like 100 grams of water. I did like...
What do you mean lactic acid solution?
We literally had this little like bottle of
That's something you buy?
Lactic acid.
What? Yeah. Is it what, for the taste, for the consistency?
It changed the taste. I don't know. I just thought that the word was cool and we were like crafting this drink. And,
this looks cool.
And Kyle was like, yeah, like he's like, we'll do this, this, and this. And he's like, add the lactic acid and then made the drink cool.
So we'll throw a Tide Pod in there. It'll be great. No, so go back over there. I kind of lost on the lactic acid. It's lactic acid and what? 9-volt battery?
Almond orgeat. That was my drink. So I took a shot of espresso, a lactic acid solution, and then a certain amount of almond orgeat. I put it in a whipped cream charger, charged it with CO2.
What?
Shook it, and that was how I made my specialty drink.
You need to serve that.
It was good. It was really good.
Did it taste like coffee?
It did. But it was just,
I don't know what any of those other words are, so if it tastes more like orgeat, I wouldn't know.
Almond orgeat is like something that they use in like tiki cocktails. So it was tropical. So I actually took, for this, at the national competition, I pulled my 4 shots. I put it in a hyper chiller. Familiar with that?
No.
It's basically this container you put in the freezer, and then it can chill liquids in seconds.
Sweet.
So like you pour your hot espresso into a certain compartment, you swirl it around for like 10 seconds, and it's ice cold.
It's cool.
Is that the thing with like all the pillars?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. 'Cause it's like it covers like 90% of the surface area of the coffee immediately.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But people do it with like, you could do. I guess you could do it with water. Or I know people do it with like cocktails and stuff. But so I used that, and then I poured that into the whipped cream charger, the lactic acid, the almond orgeat, which is like tropical, and then charge it with CO2, shook it up, sprayed it out. It was pretty cool. I didn't necessarily come up with that myself. It was like my team
Man, why are you telling that?
Helped me create it. But
Shout out.
so one thing that was interesting about the national competition is that we flew milk from North Carolina. We put it in a gallon Yeti and checked in a checked bag.
Whoa.
So what is it? You
got that raw milk coming from the farmer's market, find it across the country.
The secret milk. But we liked the milk. The person who won the U.S. barista competition the year before used that milk. So we're like, this is the milk we know. Let's bring it. So you fill the Yeti with ice, and then right before you leave for the airport, you dump out the ice, pour the milk in, screw it, and then you put it in your bag. And so you're bringing your coffee, all of your equipment, it's as serious as tasting your coffee out of different vessels, because the way the vessel is shaped changes the way that the coffee hits your palate, changes your perception.
Wow.
Not great, but I mean, this is all all about margins,
right?
And so because it's the exact like espresso scoring is 0 to 6, but you have 4 judges, and they don't have to be the same, but there is a head judge whose score doesn't count, but they kind of act as the calibrator.
Yeah.
So if you give me a 6,
you throw out the top and the bottom.
What?
They throw out the top score and the bottom score, or the top judge and the bottom judge.
No, but they. If 3 of the judges were like 6 out of 6, and then one of the judges was 2 out of 6, they would say, "Okay, let's talk about this. Like, why did you guys do 6 out of 6, and then why did you?" So they kind of calibrate it to, they don't force anyone to change, but they're like, "Okay, I see what you're saying, but."
Okay.
There can't be that large of a discrepancy. Mm-hmm. So you'll see they do it all in pencil, and you'll see they change it from a 2 to a 3. But so about points, it's like it's 4 judges, they're all scoring you 0 out of 6, and then it's multiplied by 4. So really each judge is, because it's all weighted, I think everything is like, the technical sheet is all, did they do this?
Right.
Yes is 1 point, no is 0 points.
Right.
But there's like 150 things. Did they do all 150? Versus the sensory judge is like 0 to 6, and different things are weighted different amounts. So I think the espresso is weighted the heaviest, and I think it's times 6 for the flavor profile. So 1 point difference is actually 24-point difference per judge.
Wow.
Which is why, and it's like literally you to the person in front of you could be 2 points. So that's the difference in like not touching your face twice, or making the shot just slightly better because you picked the right cup, that you got one judge to give you 1 more point, which actually translates to 4 more points.
Wow.
So it's like you're trying to do all of the easy things that you do every day in the shop, like flush the group head and dry the portafilter, but you're also just trying to like find every single point that you can find. The other thing they tell you is like from the moment you start, the judge is either looking to give you points or take points away. So you want to come out and be likable. Like you don't they're supposed to be unbiased, but they're humans.
Sure.
So it's like they're either thinking, I like this person, I'm gonna interpret this through the lens of I'm trying to give them points, or they're like, this is off-putting. Where can I take points away? Nationals, the first day, the top 6 had a bye, but I wasn't top 6. So that leaves 30, and only 12 make it through to day 2.
Wow.
Out of the 30. So then day 2 would be 18 people.
Yep.
And then day 3 would be the final 6.
Oh, wow.
So it goes from 36 to 18 to 6. So I felt pretty confident. I was like, I definitely want to make it to day 2. I think that I can. all I have to do is execute what we've been doing.
And would you do that same routine
Yes.
each day?
So there's
really?
There's a lot of, you don't have to, but unless you're changing
Is
it.
that going to get you more points if you're really consistent, or if you're changing it up and still
It's
able to
completely blank slate every time. Even the judges, like, I don't know if it's a rule that you can't have repeat judges, because they have like 30 or 40 judges that are rotating.
Gotcha. Okay.
You can't judge anyone that you know. It's like all those types of things. So it's possible that you could get a repeat judge, but each day, each performance is a brand new slate. So even if they saw it yesterday, they have to act like they haven't, which would lead me to think that you can't judge the same performance twice. But I don't know how to handle all of that. But so you could change it up, but basically you want to present your very best performance each time. So the only thing that you don't bring is your water. You bring your cups, you bring your coffee, you bring your milk, you bring your tools, your utensils, like everything. You can't bring your water. You can't bring your own water. I'm sure if you could, people would do it.
Yeah, wow.
But the crazy thing is that the water here is different from the water in California.
Oh, for sure.
So we're tasting the coffee here, and we're like, the coffee's tasting like this. The specialty drink is tasting like this. And we get out there, and you have a 1 hour practice block, and it's tasting different.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I wouldn't say that we were scrambling, but what we were tasting here in practice with the exact same coffee, and down to the point of like, we're making this coffee at 18 days off roast.
Okay.
So we flew out there with a coffee that was 17 days old, the same exact coffee, but 17, 18, and like 19 or 20. Right. And we're tasting all of them.
That's the sweet spot for me, I think.
Yeah. Which one is the best? Okay, this one's the best. But tomorrow, another one might be the best.
So what was the taste difference then with the water? What were you going for? What was it?
I don't remember like the specifics. I just remember it's like these like hardcore tasting notes that we were getting here. And I think it was I think it was like red raspberry, and like we were getting this banana liqueur in the specialty drink, really strong, and we got out there and it was still tasting good, but some of those notes were just gone.
Wow.
So it wasn't like a scramble, because the team that I wasn't experienced, but my team was really experienced. And they were smart enough to know, like, you practice and you prepare and you do all these things, but you just gotta whatever it tastes like that day. And the thing is, like, with blended coffees, more or lower level coffees that you're getting in coffee shops or at home, they are produced in a way to where they can be consistent. And that's why we use some of the coffees that we use. Like, we have the coffee that we use at Sayso on espresso is called the natural. And it does vary in taste throughout the year, but the general understanding is that it's going to have this type of taste and it's going to be consistent. Most people at the national level are using these super specific coffees that are so wild and crazy that the sweet spot for brewing it right is a lot smaller. And then even like day to day, the changes are bigger. Every little thing, it's just a lot more concentrated. It's really good when you nail it, but it's just like, so we had to pivot a little bit, and from kind of what we were tasting, it was still tasting great. They were still like, this coffee can get you through, like, they've done it enough that they literally can taste the coffee and be like, is this good enough? Is it capable of scoring high enough for you to move on? And they were like, yes. So they had a bottle of liquid courage backstage, which was nice for all of one of the dudes, it's like a fifth of bourbon, and they like taped like liquid courage on it. Because the nerves are real. It's crazy. I actually heard a guy say, don't drink coffee on your performance day, because you're so nervous that you're already shaking. Oof. If you've tasted your coffee like 6 times, you're going to be like... So the day of my performance, I didn't drink coffee.
Did you have a headache?
I think I had a sip of... When they were like, that's the final shot, I was like, all right, I'll sip it. Anyways, so I have my notes, and like one of them was bergamot. I didn't even know what bergamot was. I'm like, what's bergamot?
I don't.
They're like, Earl Grey tea? I'm like, yeah. They're like, that's bergamot. So I do my performance, and I feel like I crushed it. Like, we leave, and I told the guy who started Sayso with me, I was like, if that doesn't get me to the second day, I don't know what will, because it was just like execution, intentionality, all the shots pulled right. Like I was calm, I was under time. Like it's like a point off every second you go over your time. So people, it's like that's one of the big no-nos. Is like obviously do what you're supposed to do all the right things, but don't go over time. And so when you're backstage and they're calling people out, or no, they call all the competitors out to the front stage. Everybody's watching, and then they call like the top 18 like one by one. I guess it was top 12 because the other 6 already made it, and they like didn't call my name. And then so they're like, everyone who lost, you can come get your scorecards and stuff. And it was the same. I didn't make this mistake then, but I was like, what was it? Like I felt all my shots pulled right. I did all that. My technical scores were through the roof again. I stayed calm. And my obviously lost points in a handful of areas, but my biggest margin of points that I lost again was on the espresso. And the judges did not get bergamot. Like, so it's kind of like a running joke now, because they were like Kyle and Lim, who both won the U.S. Barista, they were like, oh, definitely bergamot, definitely. And I'm like, I don't know what bergamot is, but I'm trusting you
guys.
Neither do y'all.
And then literally every single judge was like, we didn't get bergamot. And that was like my anchor.
Oh, my God.
Once again, bergamot, guys, right?
Yeah.
Is that from the water, do you think?
I think it was. Like, I just think the water there changed it, and there is a level of luck. Like, for instance, one of the girls that competed day 2 and day 3, which was the final day, her score on day 2 was like 30 points higher than her score on day 3. And it's literally because of the types of coffee you're using.
Yeah.
Just one day can just, like, you have to be prepared, but then you just have to get a little bit of luck.
Yeah.
And that was just like, for me, I don't want to like blame it on the water.
You blame it on the coaches. Yeah.
But blame it on the coaches. But it was just like, it just wasn't that day where the things I needed kind of like fell into place. So I got 24th or something out of 36, which is still really cool. But I was disappointed because I'm like, I knew the coffee was a lot better than the judges tasted. And sure, some of that could have been my fault, but I'm just like, man, I just wish I could have tasted it the way that we were tasting it, because it was like mind blowing. And there's actually a girl that was also using Macava, but a lower level lot, like not even a good lot that was as good as mine. And she like made it on to day 2, and I'm like, like.
Maybe you just weren't likable. You think
probably,
that was it? Yeah.
They were just
you just got up like, I'm going to
me.
take points away from this kid. Wild. And that was the last time that was the only time you competed.
So yeah, that was 2020. They didn't have it 2021, and then I think they're doing it in April for the first time since COVID, because so the person won. Well, World Barista Competition had been canceled until I think they just did it in like October or something.
Okay.
So they didn't need to find a new World Barista until this last one could represent the U.S. also with COVID. And so the way they did it this year, and I didn't try and compete. It was weird. They didn't do any of the qualifying stuff. They just did, it was like a lottery. So if you wanted to compete at nationals, you had to submit your name in a lottery, and you had to get selected.
Like just at random?
Yeah. Because it's kind of
like
weird.
all good competition. If you want to go to the Olympics this year.
Yeah, literally.
Just put your name in a hat.
Like,
David Keewer, you're competing. In a tall jump.
I think they're trying to be more inclusive of people who
suck at coffee.
I guess people who wouldn't sign up for.
Me and my Keurig, we've got a chance.
But the time frame that they were doing it this year wasn't good for me anyway. So I was like, I don't. But I think it'd be cool to compete again. I'm pushing our baristas if they want to. Like, we want to support you to compete. It's just, it's really fun. You grow a lot as a barista. You learn a lot about coffee that you never would have learned otherwise. And then you go to like basically a weekend and just hang out with other people who like drinking coffee. So it was really fun, and might do it again. If you get top 6, you get this big trophy. It's like huge, and it has like a portafilter on it, and it's like 6th place. So I'm like, if I ever did it again, I would just be doing it for the trophy.
Yeah.
And you like put it up in your coffee shop.
Oh yeah, for sure.
That's
Are there
awesome.
any the fellas that won it that one year? Do they have the trophy? Their coffee shop?
Oh,
What-
yeah.
What coffee shop is that?
Black and white.
Oh, I didn't know black and white. Gotcha.
Yeah.
So
So you go into black and white, there's just
a brick and mortar as well.
couple. They've got 3
Nice.
big trophies, and it's like first place in Worlds or US, not Worlds.
That's awesome.
I know I've never been in
Oh my
there.
gosh.
It's pretty cool.
First in worlds barista. That is just like. Is there any competition like that for wine? Is that a thing?
Here,
Well, I guess you're not
one
brewing
of my
it, you're not
take-
roasting it or anything like
I
that.
don't-
It's completely different.
One of my takeaways was like, if you go deep enough in anything, there's like a
Ugh.
competition for it.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's not like, I don't know. Well, there's winemakers, but there's definitely probably like sommelier competitions.
True.
Is that even how you say that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it is. Yeah, my first job was at Subway, and they had the Subway artist competition.
Oh, nice.
You
Sandwich
could go. I
artist.
definitely did not go to it, but they're like, you should try out. You could compete. You're really fast. I'm like, oh. You're laughing at me about that. You would. Okay,
You're really fast.
You're really fast at making subs.
Okay, you may be laughing at that now, but back then when I was in high school, Subway was it was as cool as being a barista competition is now. I should have done it. I would have my big Subway trophy
Big Subway
up,
trophy.
up here. Big
Just
old
a
hope.
foot
like
long.
a metal foot long.
Yeah, I think that is probably true. That I saw at one point that there was there was some grocery store that had the bag person bagging
Competitions?
competitions.
Whoa.
Yeah, have you seen that? And it's like
That's cool.
It's one of those like you're blindfolded and they say like, okay, it's like 3 loaves of bread, bananas, like all these different
my
things. Like
gosh.
put them in the right way that nothing gets smushed and all this other stuff, and they grade you on speed and points and stuff like that. So
That's
yeah,
funny.
I believe in anything you can go into that there's eventually that.
Have you seen the circle drawing competitions?
Oh, yeah, I have.
They're like so fast
and beautiful.
and like perfectly
Yeah.
circular.
The one guy who I just like
Measuring
he
it.
puts his elbow right in the center
Oh,
of
yeah.
like the chalkboard, and he's like, like a circle all the way around, perfect circle.
He wins.
Double jointed. He just.
He broke his own arm to be the best.
Just destroying himself for the cause. And you're expanding into a. Are you trying to? You're putting Sayso, another Sayso in, right?
Yeah. So to fill the gap quickly from barista competition till now, that was
Ayo.
February 2020. We get back and COVID's like exploding. We get back, they're like, yeah, there's like confirmed cases in Orange County. We were like, what the heck? We're just in Orange County. At the time, Sayso was a mobile cart, and we had about 5 weekly events that we did every week. And so if we had more special events, it was like more than 5. So all of our events got shut down because 2 of them were like in the lobby of like a school building. 2 of them were in this lobby, which is just a big office building. One was a farmer's market, and at the beginning of COVID, as we all remember, anything with people just got shut down. So all of our events got shut down. And at the time, with the previous owner, we were working towards a brick and mortar at another space, and obviously it was really unknown 2 whole years ago. So that kind of came on pause, and a couple months into COVID, when it was kind of clear it was going to be around for a while, the guy who had initially started Sayso and reached out to me about helping him called me up and was just like, hey, man, we're just going to pull the plug because we don't really know how long it's going to last, and it's just not a good time for us. So when he did that, I don't know how or why I was prepared to be like, well, I'll try and buy it from you. But I said that on the phone, and he was like, yeah, we actually think that would be a great idea.
Wow. Which buying is the name and all the equipment.
Yeah, so, I mean, we had to flesh it out. I was like, I don't know what it means. I'll try and buy it from you. And Rebecca and I were dating but about to be engaged. And so, he's like, we think that you and Rebecca would be great to kind of carry it on. They had a young kid, and, one of their main concern was like childcare and in the midst of COVID. And it wasn't a grind season for them.
Right.
But they felt good about the potential of us kind of picking it up and entering into that grind season for ourselves. So we fleshed it out. We met them a lot. initially it was we were just going to buy the equipment. We weren't going to take the brand, but they were going to kind of bless us through the brand that we had been building, which, I mean,
where did that name come from?
They picked it kind of the culture of coffee shops where you go there and you talk with people, but also like, hey, if you need something, say so. If it's small, like you need a lid or like a napkin, say so. But also it's like, hey, if you're going through a hard time, you need someone to like listen, like say so,
I like it.
So it's cool. And they wanted something short and kind of memorable. So love the name. But they were like, this brand's really special to us. We kind of want to just lay it to rest. So Rebecca and I were like, cool, like sounds good. We'll just, come up with a new name. But they ended up changing their mind a few days later because they were trying to price the brand, which it was so new that it didn't really have any value.
Right.
But we had been consistently making really good coffee, so a lot of the community already highly regarded Sayso as really good coffee, and I had made like 95% of the drinks that were ever served from Sayso, and so I didn't feel like entitled, but I was also like, man, I've been working really hard to build this brand reputation, and it's working, and now we're gonna have to start all over. So when they called back and they were like, actually, we would like to just give you guys the branding. We don't want to put a price on it, but you've been integral since the beginning. We just want to give it to you and watch it live on. And so we just inherited that, which was awesome. So we took the branding, and Rebecca and I both knew of the Public House, which was just a modern, clean pub that had been shut down because of COVID, but it had a nice outdoor area. It was a standalone building. There was lots of accessible parking. There's just something in me. I'm like, this is where we have to go. And like my parents and Rebecca and even some of the other people we were talking, they're all like, what's the foot traffic like? I'm like, it's non-existent. But I don't, I still can't even explain why. I just knew, I'm like, this is where we have to go. It's just what I was feeling. I'm like, this is it. So we talked with them. They were open to it. Strange enough, they had a coffee cup put into their logo, like from their conception.
Public House?
Yeah. It's because they had always wanted coffee, and they had
This is Austin and Travis.
So Public House, in its conception, included coffee, and they could just never find the right way to do it. They talked about doing it. They talked to several other people about opening up in there, and it just never worked out until we just came in, I guess, at the right time where they were willing to let us do what we were looking to do, and we were willing to support them in the way that they were. So it's kind of cool now. You look at their logo, and it has a coffee cup in it.
Wow. Oh, yeah.
And there was conversations like, do you want to just come under the Public House name? A few different things, but we decided it'd be best just to be two separate businesses that shared the same building.
Yeah.
So we moved in there, and our grand opening was July 25th, 2020. And when we started, I was delivering pizzas at Domino's. So I'd work the shift, and then I'd get off and drive to Domino's and go deliver pizzas.
Wow.
Because I'm like, I didn't even know, how do you pay yourself? Like we went through all the hurdles of, getting the funding that we needed, opening a business bank account. But I'm like, we're making money, thankfully. But I'm like, can I pay myself? Am I allowed to pay myself? Is this legal? So we got up and running 6 weeks before Rebecca and I got married. So we got it up. We had a guy that was working with us before we took it over, and then a friend of ours to run it while we were like on our honeymoon. And then we came back and just kind of hit the ground running. And
now you're like one of the cultural points of Winston-Salem. Like, for sure. It's just like, I absolutely love what the Public House and like y'all are. It is just like, you go there on a Saturday, you're going to see half the people like there's the markets that are there. There's music. We had Tim was our first episode on here, and he's doing, what is that, on Monday nights?
The weekly.
the weekly with like jazz and improv and all that other stuff. That space in the back is just the best. I love that area of town, and it's really, I love anything that is a little bit more southeast of Winston. You know, off of 4th Street, more that direction. Anything that's kind of pushing that way, just bringing more community and stuff like that. That direction, I love it. It's an amazing space.
Yeah, it is, and it's in between Ardmore and downtown. Mm-hmm. So a lot of young people live in Ardmore. So if they're going downtown, they're passing it. West Salem is another one for young families. It's walking distance from West Salem. The fact that there's tons of free parking, I think, helps.
Yes.
And then the whole vision of the public house was, they're named it public house because in Europe, whenever I don't know when, but they had small houses, small living quarters, so they couldn't have people over. So they had their neighborhood pubs that were their public living rooms, basically public houses.
Okay.
And so they didn't create that name. That's what they took.
That's cool.
They took it from the European public houses, and that's what they wanted to be for West Salem.
Yeah.
Was like an open living room.
That's what it is. It feels like that.
You know, and some of the culture of that is like they try and not do private events because that takes away from literally being the public living room. Mm-hmm. So it's like, we're not going to close it off to the public, but you can come and have your event here like for free. If it, you know, to some extent. But sharing a space with another business has been hard, but I think the reason that it works is that we both kind of have that same goal of like just being a space to help facilitate community. And a lot of that is just providing as a welcoming environment, a comfortable environment. With COVID, it was a lot of like, there's a lot of outdoor space. And so it's like, you know, people can come still be around people at a distance at whatever their comfortability level is. So the space has been a huge blessing to us. The public house has been a huge blessing to us. And it has been way better than I ever could imagine. Like when we started, it was like, if we can just sell 30 cups of coffee in a day.
Dude, I bought
like,
30 cups of coffee in a day there.
Probably. So really thankful for that. And then, you know, we've been there for a year and a half now. About a year in, a little less than a year in, we started doing baked goods because my wife, co-owner, she's been a baker. And, you know, we're like, how do we grow the business? And it's like, well, Rebecca loves food, loves baking. We got to start baking. So we started baking out of a rented commissary kitchen, which was a great start. It's just not a long-term option. It's a little more expensive long-term, and just it's a shared space, not 24/7 access. So we're like, we need to find a kitchen. We're filling up pretty much every day. It fills up, and to the point where I'm like, I feel like we're turning away some customers who are looking for a place to sit. You know, when it's nice out, we can pack out the outside. It's not as big of a deal, but there's 4 or 5 months out of the year, anytime it's raining, it's like all the inside space is full. So we kind of started to open ourselves up to looking for space with the number one goal of like, wherever we look, it has to be able to have a kitchen. Because that's like our biggest way that we want to grow. And we probably looked at 6 or 7 spaces, not, I wouldn't say aggressively. It was just like someone's like, oh, I got the space. And we're like, oh, yeah, we're considering.
All over Winston.
Yeah, considering a second space. And honestly, they were all downtown. And most of the time, the vibe was just like, I got this space and I want your money. So, you know, it wasn't like, we believe in what you're doing and we think this would be a great fit and, you know, that type of thing. We got approached a couple months ago, maybe 6 or 8 months ago now, from someone that we knew. It was, so the church that we go to was like, we're buying this property. It was an old grocery store, and then there's like 10 or 11 other tenant spaces. And they're like, we're looking for a tenant that would want to be kind of like a cafe/restaurant kind of hub, community hub. Would you be interested in it? And we basically, you know, in that meeting, they basically said, this is what we're looking for. If this is not you, no problem, but let us know if this would be you. And they kind of described everything that we are wanting to do. Because we wanted to do the baking, but we also really wanted to have like made to order breakfast and lunch.
Well, they have a kitchen?
Yeah.
Oh. I know that.
So we were literally like, this is exactly what we want to do. Like, we're in, basically. So we've been working at that. It's 15 minutes from our current location, which is nice that it's kind of far, but it's less than 2 miles from Wake. It's really close to where I grew up. So I'm like, again, another not typical location that if you just were a business person moving to Winston trying to pick a quote unquote good location, you wouldn't maybe think of this. But having grown up here and knowing the area and even growing up down Ronaldo closer to Yakinville Road, I'm like, this is going to be an awesome
that area
spot.
needs a coffee shop.
Because a ton of people live out there. It's
Tons.
just like neighborhoods and neighborhoods.
Yeah, I used to live in Town and Country like for 8 years.
Yeah. So we've been working on that. It's going to have our full kitchen.
We got some praise music coming in
I
here
know.
just in time.
It's going to help us have baked goods every day.
Cool.
When we started baked goods last April, we've been doing them 3 days a week, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and we recently just cut it down just to Saturdays because as things are kind of picking up with the new location, kind of planning, it was like, all right, we need to make kind of a sidestep, kind of hold on this as this is taking up more of our time growing in this area so that once we get the second location open, then we can go to 7 days a week. So that's felt a little weird, just almost like stepping back. I'm like, it's more of a it's stepping back so we can step forward. But this is going to allow us to do,
the
pivot.
word.
It's going to allow us to have baked goods 7 days a week. The new location will have made to order breakfast and lunch. Obviously, a lot more seating. It'll reach a whole new area of people.
Yeah.
So that's where we're at now.
That's
and
exciting.
It's funny. It kind of feels like we're back at the beginning because I remember when we were trying to buy and open Sayso in the public house. It's like you get to this point where you're like, you either have to push all of your chips in and go all in, for example, like working at Domino's and then working, that was hard, and there was times where it's like, you need to buy something for the business, but the business account wasn't set up. So you're like putting stuff on your personal credit card and you're just like, that it's going to pay off and you believe in it. But it's like, sometimes it's like kind of weird and it feels like you're going all in. And I was even just thinking about that yesterday. It's like, it feels like we're back at the beginning because we're just like pushing everything we have all in to try and get the second location open. At the same time, feel a lot of peace and feel really excited. It's like, once it gets open, it's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
And that's my biggest thing. It's like, you just got to get open because once you're open, you're making money. Even if you're not making a lot, it's like making something. Right now, it's just taking money.
Are you going back to Domino's during this time?
Yes. No.
I thought I saw you driving around the other day.
No. I wish I could have one of those visors, though.
Visor is sweet.
Not going back to Domino's, but...
So when's is there an estimated date for the time when that'll open?
I would say the best estimate is fall of this year.
Wish it was the summer.
Me too.
Yeah.
The good thing is that we're ready. Like we've got pretty much everything lined up as soon as the landlord is ready. Because the space that we're going into doesn't exist yet as a storefront. It's part of a larger area that they're partitioning off basically for us. So they're having to create the storefront, build some walls, build some bathrooms, and as soon as they kind of turn it over to us and they're like, it's ready for you, we'll be in there probably within a month open.
Beautiful.
So, and that's like...
And you're actually you get to have a lot of say or some say in kind of the design, what this is going to look like. It's actually going to be branded. It's going to be Sayso.
Yeah. So the space will be 100% ours. One of the nice things is the current space is literally nothing. Everything's going to have to be replaced. And so it's like, they're like, we're going to put in this floor. And we can kind of be like, well, put in this one,
That's awesome.
Perfect.
Or like, we're going to do, it's like, we're going to do something this way. And we could be like, well, if it costs this much more, can we just pay you to do it the way that we want? Versus going into a space that already exists, having to completely strip it out and completely do something brand new at 100% your cost. So that's been a cool thing about it. Think about working on the new.
Man, well, I'm excited for you. There's one of the, partially even with this podcast, when David and I were building out, like, so why are we even doing this? It's we just want to highlight cool and interesting people in the area, people that I think are doing really great things and really bringing community in. And I know myself, David, like we have reaped so much benefit from what y'all have done in just opening that place, just giving us a place you had to go get a coffee and sit outside when everything else was locked down and someone to walk around and go to a market and see new artists and stuff. That winter market that was there, I've gone to a lot of, like farmers markets and other like artisan markets throughout my days. And some markets you kind of like walk around and you don't want to get like too close to a table, because you're like, I don't want to get their hopes up because I'm probably not going to buy anything. I wanted to buy something at every single one of those tables. Mm-hmm. And it's just like everything it feels like that happens over there is done well, and it's done with like the intention of being that public house. So I love it. I'm super excited for your next spot that's going to come in here and what that's going to look like, and giving y'all even a lot more money on a weekly basis.
Thank you.
To have some of that stuff. So that's kind of like, is there any thought, well, I won't even ask like what's beyond that, because I know right now it's just kind of like, man, if we can get in there, that'll be a huge weight off the shoulders and that happen. But thanks for taking some time with us today, walking us through that journey. You're a competitive guy. That's what I'm finding out.
Yeah.
If it's not going to be competing CrossFit, it's competing barista and whatever else is next. Yeah. Thanks for the coffee. Thanks for stopping by.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Cheers.
Cheers.